Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 86. I'm your host, Jeff Humphreys. This one's brought to us from our good friend Jackson. We call him J2 in-house, but...
J2.
Yeah.
Nice.
So please go ahead, name and who you are.
My name is Ryan Smith. I'm CEO and founding partner of a business called 360 Energy Liability Management.
Awesome. I didn't know you were a founder of it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking, Jackson's like, you got to talk to Ryan. I'm like, okay, what's Ryan all about? So sends me the website, but I don't think it says it on there.
Yeah, we for the longest time wanted to put all of those things on the business cards, but there's three of us, so I'm definitely not responsible solely for that, but I'm one of the three fellows that got together, nine plus years ago to think about the idea and kind of start the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
crazy.
It's been a little while now.
The other cool thing we'll get into is your athletic background, because it all like ties. It's just artist entrepreneur. Like, unless you're an artist of something, you could be a trifecta. But
oh man, no, I'm definitely not an artist.
That's
I do not have that brain. I can promise you.
You've seen a couple of these,
yes.
So you kind of know where this is going to go. So yeah, take it back. I'm really curious. 'Cause, again, I know nothing. I literally know you played a sport and you're part of three, and that's it.
Yeah.
So take it back as far as you want to go. How you grew up, where you grew up, your inspiration, how your family kind of influenced you, and we'll kind of go on a path.
Wow. Yeah. So before I even start with that, can I just say I love this mode of storytelling? I think about that all the time. I don't need to blow smoke up your ass, but I really believe in this mode of storytelling. And a lot of people that come to interview at our business, I try and ask them, like, where'd you come from? You know, what are your roots? Mm-hmm. What's the town you grew up in? Mm-hmm. What high school do you go to? Those things are all super relevant and important to how people are shaped in the future of their lives. And I think, I don't know that mine is, that exciting. Maybe it's really cool to me, and maybe it's cool to a couple other people, and maybe it inspires one or two other people, but it's neat to understand, I think, inside of a context of human-led businesses or people organizations, or however you want to think about that.
What when you put people in that position to actually say it, do they freeze?
It's not really comfortable for most people. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah.
Because normally they start with their business experience. I'm like, no, you don't get it. Tell me where you came from. And then they're like, what? Like, how far back? And I said, go back and to your line. I'm like, go back as far as you want. And then they start to think, and some start at university, and some start in the town they grew up in. It's a mix mash of it. So when I started watching your episodes, I was like, oh wow,
fuck, he's been listening to me.
Where do I start? It just pairs well. It's parallel paths is what it is.
This is going to be a wild show because it's going to go fucking everywhere.
It's guaranteed.
But what's interesting is I feel like those interviews, like people, they get the interview because of their skill set, right? On a piece of paper, there's a bunch of checks.
You get in the door.
That's it. But then it's you, the person, that has to actually get the job. And that's what's interesting. And you, as the business owner, you want to work with like-minded people.
And so everybody has their own inherent biases of what they think is the right qualities or what are the right traits or beginnings to lead the people to success in the future. I'm no different. I have some of those, but a lot of those have been proven wrong through those conversations at the same time, which I think is really cool. Hey, I think sports people are all going to be awesome at business. It's not always the case. Definitely not the case, actually. That's one thing that got bust for me as a business person early. Sports is not always the indicator. It's about how you interact with a team, how you organize your own life. Those are some of the qualities that come out of being in those things.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that sports is the be-all, end-all, or that art is the be-all, end-all, or engineering class, whatever.
Yep.
It's really cool. I love the exploration. That's what I mean. I don't need to blow smoke up your ass.
No.
I love the storytelling path,
which I appreciate, and I think that's why when Jackson did the intro and you and I talked for the first time, it was like, what the this guy's talking like exactly the way I talk. I was like,
if you need a backup, if you get sick or something, I'll come in and sit in your chair and I'll talk to, as long as they're really simple people, because I can't keep up with fast people.
Play to your strengths.
Yeah.
So go ahead, man. I'm ready.
Okay. Ryan Smith in a nutshell. You probably break it up into 3 blocks, kind of formative years, the rugby years, as I call them, and then the business years. That's the easiest way to, I like simplifying complex things. That's how my brain works.
Yep.
I grew up in 2 small towns in Ontario, so I'm not a Calgarian by birth, but Calgary is definitely my home now. I love this place. I'll say that for sure. I grew up in 2 small towns in Ontario, about an hour outside of Toronto, and grew up on thoroughbred racehorse farms. So
what?
This is really important to the story, I think, of me, or I believe it's really important to the story of me because it laid a lot of foundation. And so my mom ran a breeding operation, and my dad to this day trains thoroughbred racehorses. That's his job. Like you think about Kentucky Derby, he would be like the Ontario version of that.
Crazy.
Not to the kind of high TV stuff, but just in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I knew it, not many kids grew up in that space. Me and my brother. I'm the younger of two. And when you grow up on a farm, there aren't any days that you don't have to do something. And especially when it comes to animals, if you're on an animal farm, and thoroughbred racehorses they're highly care dependent. When you grow up in those worlds, you just have to do something all the time, and that was my parents to a T. So my mom has probably the greatest work ethic of any person I've ever met, and my dad would be barely second to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really cool now as an adult to reflect back on the things that instills in you
mm-hmm.
that you don't really recognize as you go through it.
And you don't, do you?
Oh, God,
as a youngster, you're probably some days you're kind of like pissing and moaning, and then
oh God, did I ever?
And then I'm sure your parents were on edge a few times, and you did something stupid, and all of a sudden they light up, and you're like, I didn't do anything.
Oh man, like you think you're doing the right thing, and then you do it wrong, mm-hmm. and all you were trying to do is the right thing, and you're working your butt off, and you get roasted for it, and then mm-hmm. you're like, oh. This sucks. I got to work all the time, and so the formative years for me were developed kind of working either on the farm or at the racetrack. And the racetrack, like on a farm, lots of people can relate to that. They can understand it.
Yep.
The racetrack is a world unto itself, and I don't know if you've ever been to one, but it's one of the biggest melting pots you could ever imagine. Mm. You have the wealthiest of the wealthy that own racehorses. You have the least wealthy of the lot, those that work with the animals themselves, the grooms and the hot walkers and the people that work on the racetrack. Mm-hmm. Very low-paying jobs, but it's a fulfilling job because you work with these animals. You have the gamblers in the middle that go to the racetrack. You have the spectators. You have the trainers who are trying to keep the animals together, those that are good actors, the bad actors. Like you have everything. Mm-hmm. It is like a movie. Mm-hmm. And I think... that experience for me was so cool because I get exposed to that at an early age, and it really starts to shape the things that you understand and your view of the world and your view of people in general. And now I reflect on it as an adult and as a business person, say, you know what, that actually was really useful. And I got to understand risk taking. Mm-hmm. Got to understand how you care for people. My dad was a great employer of people, but he often got frustrated with people as well. And he himself recognized this. He's told me later in life, he said, yeah, I just can't deal with all those goddamn people. I don't know how you do it. Mm-hmm. I love my dad. I talk to him all the time, save my mom. But it's just really intriguing to go through that. And so I grew up just going to work.
Yep.
And that was my brother and I, actually, both of us. I wanted to be a jockey until I turned the age of 7, and I started to grow. Mm-hmm. Not really the shape of a jockey anymore. Yeah. So I love horse racing to this day.
What about horses? Like the animal, so here's my random horse story. When I was like, I don't know, 11, 12, 13, I went to this, it's called the Griffin Valley Ranch out by Cochrane. Okay. And it was like this horse camp. So like, it was a summer horse camp. It was a week-long thing. So you kind of drive out there for 5 days, and just, it's a horse camp. So you ride these horses, understand, learn everything about these things, and ride them on these trail rides, and then come back and put the saddle, all these things. And so horses scared the shit out of me. You get on these things, you're a little dude and these monsters, but it's that like respect. When you're around these animals, they just require a level of respect that is just, I'll never forget it.
So because I've been in it my whole life, or wasn't my whole life, horses, they demand that respect, but once you earn it, they give you something. And maybe that sounds strange, but when you create a connection with a horse, it is something different than, say, a dog or a cat or otherwise. And I know those are pets because horses are kind of viewed differently, maybe.
Yep.
But in particular, thoroughbreds are some of the most raw, athletic animals that exist. So when you are either... And I spent no time on the back of them because I am a terrible rider, like absolute shite. I can do anything you want with a horse on the ground, and I'm really comfortable with them all on the ground. You just have that like holy awe moment, and then most people have fear until you've grown up with it, and then you can realize, okay, well, here's the dangers, and I understand the risk. I can get kicked here, and here, and maybe I'll avoid that. But once you figure a horse out and figure out what mostly makes them tick, it's really quite cool to see them come along, and you coach them into, learning to lead and learning to ride and learning to, be really fast, and like those things are amazing. It's really much like nurturing an athlete, very much the same, but in that world, it's just really gratifying.
I can't imagine, like every day around these special animals.
Oh, yeah, and
you take for granted the time, like
I don't know, these days I don't take it for granted as much because my dad's still in it and I get to connect with him and I call him every week. He's in Ontario still. So I call him every week and I try and check in on how the horses are doing. And my dad's been doing the same job forever and a day. And he's this, like, he just is this little robot that goes to the track, and I call him and I get the same story every time. And it's so like gratifying to hear that same story. I'm like, all right, it's still going good.
Yep.
So I don't think I do take it for granted really.
Back in the day, did you understand how like cool and special?
Not in the least bit. In the mix, I was just like, oh God, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work 300. My dad's 73 years old. He works 340 days a year. Like
hard.
Yeah, totally. And it's just the way he knows how to do it. And God, I respect him for it. And but it just wasn't the path for me at that age. I was like, no way, I don't want to do that.
Was your brother? Did he think the same thing? No way. This is
my brother's more akin to my mom and dad in that regard, and he almost went down that path. He was an assistant trainer for my dad for a little bit, but he's as stubborn as my dad too. So he and my I hope he listens to this, idiot. He's a farmer in Ontario, so he's not far off.
Cool.
He took over my grandfather's farm and got into that mode. So you can bet that he's got the same mindset, which is really cool. And he's a grinder, an absolute grafter, and just gets after it. He's got the same work ethic. And that's the really cool thing about the upbringing is just that. If I want to describe it in a nutshell, and that probably flows into how I treated rugby as I went through it, was just an absolute workhorse.
Yep.
And it gets you a long way.
And business too, right?
Strangely enough, yeah, it gets there.
It follows you. Once it's in you, it follows you all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. So, grew up on the racetrack, grew up small town. Sorry, I got off track for a little bit.
No, dude, we got time.
We didn't have a lot in terms of money or anything like that. When you train and breed racehorses, you're doing it for other people. So it's not a lucrative business by any stretch of the means. So I wouldn't say that we were below the poverty line or middle class, somewhere kind of in between those two things. And our parents gave us everything we needed and loved us and all of that. We didn't do a lot of sports though. Is kind of the underlying theme on the transition to the next phase. We played hockey in the winter and maybe soccer in the summer. And my dad actually loved golf, which is strange. But he's mad passionate on golf, and that's what got me into the sport as well. So those are my two sporting passions. It's golf first and then rugby second.
No way.
Yeah. But in high school, I went to high school at a place called Mayfield Secondary School on the north end of Brampton in Ontario. Big high school, but was just that kid that liked doing everything. Because when you get into high school, you can try everything, right?
Yep.
And I was not far off the height I'm now, maybe 6'1" or 2 or 3, but like 140 pounds, just a stick. Like Gumby walking around, rolling my arms around. So just got into everything early in high school.
And talented?
No, and that's not an exaggeration. I was just like middle of the road probably.
Yep.
Decent hand-eye coordination, I think, relative to most, and just really engaged in it. Like, love the idea of it, how to work hard at it. Again, back to that, how to work at it. And then slowly, kind of over that high school athletics thing, realized, you know what, some of it's going okay, and I'm not bad at it. But got into rugby in grade 9 because one teacher is roaming the halls looking for gangly-looking kids like me saying, you're playing rugby. And I says, what is rugby? I've never heard of the sport in my life.
Like it's the under the radar.
Oh, totally. And I'll get into rugby and what it is for the world in a sec. But at that point, no clue what it was. This is 1993 or something. That's when I went to grade 9.
So you have to, and so it's interesting how those coaches, they are wandering.
They know what they're doing.
They're looking at these like, can I mold this? Maybe he's walking in a good direction. So.
Oh man, and it's even funnier if you put it in the context of rugby positions, and maybe we get into that later. But when he looked at me, and when I got into the game first, they put me in the forwards. There's in the game of rugby, there's 8 huge mutants that are forwards, and then there's 7 guys that are good looking and smart and intelligent and fast, and I was the second half. But I started in the first half, which is intriguing. Yeah, I was like, oh man, I'm going to be an ugly mutant. I don't want to do that. But that's where I started, and then kind of you realize that okay, everybody's okay. Nobody understands the game whatsoever. But the one thing that I started to think about was, okay, what is this game, and how does it work? Like, what are the intricacies of the game, and how do you manipulate and maneuver? Because I'm not the best athlete. Those are the things that are hallmarks probably that lead into the future of my rugby conversation.
Yep.
But played rugby through high school.
With golf and like just...
Yeah, played on the golf team as well. So played golf team. And this is where all my buddies who played football in the fall took the piss out of me because they're like, you're such a nerd. You're playing on the golf team and we're playing football and you should play football.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
and I'm like,
you're
beat it,
playing
guys.
rugby.
I'm playing rugby in the spring. I think you guys are knobs and it's a slow sport and I don't like it. I actually ended up playing my last year of high school and really enjoyed it.
No way, just to like shut them up.
Basically.
A walk on.
But it was still too slow. I really like the activity and things need to move fast and going all the time. And that was kind of the context for rugby that kept me engaged in it. And really the thing that caught my interest the most in high school, second year of high school, that same teacher that was combing the halls for idiots like me, they did a rugby tour. He would run these rugby tours overseas every year.
Cool.
And if you know anything about rugby, the touring rugby team is part of the foundational elements of the sport. It's what keeps the clubs together. People, they glom together and they get in a van and they go to New Orleans or they get on a plane and they go to England. That was the case in high school for us. And I didn't know anything about the world. I hadn't traveled much at all. And this guy organizes this trip to Wales and England. And yeah, real legit. So we get on a plane as a grade 10 and I've been on one plane before in my life, I think at this point, and go over there and it's like, head explodes. I'm just so excited about what's happening here. We're new culture, going to international rugby game. My first ever international rugby game is Wales versus France, the old Five Nations in Cardiff Arms Park. So I'll never forget it this day. We stood in the end goal, like just those little moments that
burn forever.
Yeah, exactly right. So that set the hook.
Were you like intimidated at all when you like line up? Because I feel like rugby is I know a little bit about it. I feel like rugby was a small sport in Canada.
Yeah.
Over there, I feel like it was way further along, like a big thing.
Yeah.
So a bunch of Canadians roll over there just having fun in their small town to this mecca.
Yeah.
Is that an overstatement?
Not an overstatement. Not at that age and not at where we went to. Wales in particular, after New Zealand, Wales probably has the strongest rugby culture of any country in the world. They're a small country, obviously, but they have an unbelievable mindset towards rugby. It's just, it boggles your mind when you go over there. So when we got to Wales, it was like, we are nobodies and we suck and we got pummeled too, and that's okay.
But is it in that sport particular? Is it intimidating lining up against like either fast monsters, just monsters, or people that are very capable? Like that intimidation thing. That's why I never played it. I was like, yeah.
It is. It absolutely is a short answer. I'll come back though later in the story. I think I can tell you something about intimidation, and I'll tell you there's really cool the memories that stick in my mind from the international side. I think that's really neat.
Yep.
So set the hook. Play a high school career. I decide after high school that I'm going to go into the Army or I want to be a police officer. Those are my two chosen paths.
And you're pretty clear on that? School is just there. You just did it.
So I was okay. I was okay. No, I actually had good grades, but nobody in my family had ever gone to university. Oh. So I was the first to go, and I only got convinced because a bunch of buddies were going, and my then girlfriend was the same thing. She's like, "You should go to university. You've got good grades." I'm like, "What is that?" So this is how naive it was to the world. I'm telling you, like small town kid, farm kid, all of this. So I chose to go to the University of Guelph, which is an ag school in Western Ontario. Brilliant school. I applied to business because my parents are in small businesses themselves. I like the idea of it. I actually applied to the marketing program, which I thought, in hindsight now, I wish I had got in because it would have been my chosen path. But didn't get in. Grades weren't quite good enough, so I got into economics. So I went to Guelph to take a BCom with an econ specialty. There's a longer story to that.
Both sound painful.
They are. So went, played and now we're going to transition from kind of early days Ryan to rugby Ryan, if that's kind of, I'm talking about myself in the third person. What a knob.
Good.
So this part of the story transitions to how I got into rugby, which defined where I am today probably to a large degree. Played my first year at Guelph. We had a great team. I was a bit player on that squad, a bench player at best. Yep.
And no scholarships? Like, did they know that you were coming to Guelph, or is just like...
Oh, God, no.
There's tryouts and you show up?
I had played... yes, correct. There was one other coach at McMaster that had said, hey, I saw you play at a provincial club final. You should come play at our school. And I was like, wow, that's cool. This guy's interested in me. And I tried to shift gears, and then I got convinced not to. And then University of Guelph gave me an educational bursary. Really? Yeah. So I was like, oh, free money. I can't afford university, so I'm going to take the free money.
Done.
And that's how that went to get to Guelph, roll into the team with another great buddy of mine, my buddy from high school. We dormed together. We went from like all 5 years of high school.
No way.
And then we dormed together first year, and we both played rugby. So it was perfect. Johnny Mack and I roll up to this team, and bit players on the first team at the University of Guelph. Some playtime, but the team won the Ontario Championship.
No way.
Which, so right now, today, this year's 25th anniversary of this, my phone is blowing up with these WhatsApp things. All these old guys are trying to relive these moments.
No way.
That's a complete sidebar, but
25 years.
Yeah, 25 years. Yeah.
Crazy.
And then, so decent fall rugby
loving
career.
it, loving
oh
it,
man,
like
I'm
just
starting
like-
to get into it then.
just
That's
the
really
guys, the
success
culture,
begets success, and
the work.
exactly right, culture. And it was fun, man. We did some dumb stuff, as you can imagine. University rugby players.
It's just like,
oh man.
everyone has that picture in their head, even
Yeah.
like,
And we were that to the nth degree. That's why this WhatsApp thing is hilarious. I'm watching us all relive the stupid things we did. And then from kind of that point, the next summer, no, I went through another year and came back to Guelph for a second year. We weren't as good that year. We played another year of rugby. I was kind of middling in school. I'm like, I'm going to drop out and be a cop. That was kind of my thought process. It really was, because I wasn't really enjoying school.
Yep.
Loved rugby, but nothing was really going there.
Yep.
I got convinced in the summer after my second year of university to go to an Ontario under-21 tryout. So I'd never played any representative rugby before. And I'm 19 at that point, I guess.
you $150 yet?
Barely. Barely. I've put on maybe 5 pounds. So I'm like this little stick in the wind. Most guys are, but rugby, like they mature fast. So I go to this under 21 tryout. This is long story long, so bear with me.
Dude, I am all in. So
if you have time, okay.
No apologizing.
I go to this under 21 tryout, and I do just enough. Last guy picked. And that's not an exaggeration. Last guy picked. There's, I want to say 24 or 25 guys picked on this squad to go to the Canadian Championships in Ottawa that summer. So we all hop in a bus.
Are you surprised?
Shocked. Because I am a nobody in the landscape. So if kind of give you the overlay on context for rugby, anybody that plays provincial rugby typically starts at a younger age, U16, U18, or U17, U19, U21 at that time.
That's like that. Those are all the feeder programs. So you get to.
That's right. So you've got these provincial pathways that were well defined, 17, 19, 21, and then you've got Canada, the same thing, and they were 18, 20, 23 Canada senior, and I was a nobody, and that's not an exaggeration. I was an absolute nobody. So to get picked in that squad was like, oh, I know of all of these people that have been playing 17s, 19s, and everything, and the people in my position are well established.
Yep.
And I'm versatile. I can play a bunch of spots, but no experience whatsoever. And this is U21, so I'm actually a developed athlete at this point. So it's the first age grade I make. I'm like, okay, I'm not really considering much. But I go on this trip, and this is a funny story because it set the stage for everything that came after that, and it's a really good precursor to what I call life by accident. And this is how I got to where I am today, effectively. If I could tie it back to one moment, this might be it.
No way.
That's maybe a bit of a stretch on the truth. There's lots of other factors into it.
Yeah.
But so we go to this tournament in Ottawa, in Ottawa. And there's a person playing in front of me in my position. I played fly half at that time, number 10. It's like the quarterback, effectively.
Okay.
And the guy that's playing in front of me is the guy. Canada everything, Ontario everything. He's going on to the under 23 Canada program, so groomed, all of this. And I'm like the backup to the backup.
Hey guys.
Sitting in the stands. I got a little scrum cap on. If you know this, I look like a little wiener with a little thing on my head. So I'm literally sitting in the stands, not expecting to play in this tournament in the least bit. Maybe some bit minutes at the end of games against the other provinces that are garbage. And that's a reality for me at that point. And I was like, okay, great. 5 minutes into the first game, this guy goes down. He gets nuked. So he's injured, and it's like record player stops. The whole team's like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? And they look up in the stands.
There he is.
And I'm like, and it sounds like a movie, and I'm playing it up a fair bit. But
it's like,
but that was the moment. It was very early into the first game, and I went on to play not shit in the rest of the games. We go to the final. We lost in the final to BC. They were always the best. But played okay enough to get noticed. And a club on the West Coast on Vancouver Island calls the selectors that are at that tournament and says, hey, is there anybody there we should call and bring out? They say all the known names, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and there's this guy from Ontario. He's a nobody, but he showed up well, and you should give him a call. So that's exactly what happened. After my second year of university, Castaway Wanderers Club in Vancouver Island, in Victoria, British Columbia, they call and say, hey, we heard you played in the U21s. We heard you played great. Would you like to come out and play club rugby on the coast? And I was like, I don't know what this is about. So it was like, and then so I got a long-term, high school girlfriend. I'm in university. I'm at a crossroads in my life. I pick up the phone. I call a mentor of mine who's a dear friend of mine today and a mentor today, John McMillan. He was the coach of my rugby club at the time. Turns out he was also the coach of the Under-23 Canada program. Got lucky in all of those things. I call him and say, Johnny, this club just called me and asked me to come to the West Coast. What should I do? I'm scared. I don't really think it's a good idea. I want to stay here. I'm going to do this. And he says, you're an idiot if you don't do that.
No way.
100%. So I said, you know what? F it. I'm going to go. So this now leads into, like, if you think about the future of my life, it's kind of saying yes to life.
Yep.
That was the first time that actually happened.
Which is, you had a lot of things to keep you back.
Tons.
And, dropping out of school, it's a thing for sure. But like across the country, you have no idea where you're going. Like,
oh man, it's terrifying. Like, load up the Ford Escort, little red Ford Escort, load that thing up. Yeah, quit school against the advice of all.
And yeah, where's your
to go do what? To play rugby for a club? Mm-hmm. No pay, no job, no school.
I was gonna say there's no pay. It's just
no. This is like just going to play fun rugby in everybody's eyes, except maybe a couple.
Yeah.
Me and maybe a handful of others who start to see a little bit of okay, maybe there's a pathway there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that guy John McMillan told me I should go do this. He said, "Well, if you go do that, you should also target that Under-23 Canada program. You're a long shot, but you should target that."
Just like planting the seed.
Yep.
So when you move like that, once your coach says like you'd be an idiot if you didn't go, are you all in? Are you hesitant? Like are you scared shitless? Like what's actually happening?
I only have kind of that reflective moment now to look back on it, but it was very much make the decision and go. That probably is a hallmark of something that I don't often dwell on decisions very much. Mm-hmm. Have an okay gut instinct, I think, now, in hindsight also, but just said, yep, it's the right decision, and I'm going to put all the chips in. And then that turns out it worked out okay, obviously. Well, for me, anyways. I feel like it did, anyways. Not like in a braggy way. It's just like I feel good about the decision today and then. Get out there, play a season of club rugby, and at the same time...
Was it good? Like good?
Well, it's the highest standard. At that time, West Coast Rugby is the highest standard. They pick all the national team players from there. Okay. So that the league you're playing in is Canada guys all over the place. Anybody that's not a professional is playing in that league at that time. And they have that Under-23 program playing in that league. So the best 2 years older than you guys are all there too. So you got a real good measuring stick. You can just look across the field and know that you're not at that quality effectively. So it's that's the great thing about sport too, is you can measure yourself really objectively against other people. And so on top of going to play at that club, I also decide with a little bit of encouragement to go to the Under-23 training sessions and just hold bags. So they say, yes, you can come and hold bags, because you're an okay player, you're young enough, you got potential maybe to be in this program, and well, sure, we'll expose you to it. And I went and I just held bags and got the shit beat out of me for a winter of doing club rugby and kind of showing up to training at the same time, where those guys they're the alpha kids at that age. They're like, beat it, loser. This is our program and this is our spot. And I'm dear friends with them after the fact, but during the time, you just take your lumps and you get the shit beat out of you, and you just really kind of get stuck in. And that was really telling inside of the next couple phases of my career too. And
just when you're there, you're just smart enough to understand. You just shut up and listen, watch, and just like
totally
learn.
I was such a late bloomer in the sport. In most sports, I think probably as well too. I grew a little bit later. I was maybe $180 by this point.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, I was starting to really round out. So I late bloomer for sure. If you kind of draw the timelines, that's about 2000. 3 years later I go to my first Rugby World Cup with the senior team. So like the transformation over that time period went really quick.
And it doesn't happen very often.
It was a bit of a whirlwind in that sense, for sure.
Yeah.
So put in all the work with the club team, have a great time. What an unbelievable experience for a kid to like just West Coast, new place, felt like a different country. Get into that program the next year. So the under 23 program that I was telling you about, and that's the grooming. That's the breeding ground for anybody that wants to go on to play representative rugby for Canada.
Yep.
So put in 2 good years there, have an unbelievable experience. That's a professional environment without getting paid. We were 7 days a week from September to April, full noise.
Crazy.
And it was, it's what set up, it appealed to my work ethic, I think, really well. And it took what was very raw skill and started to put a little bit of polish on it from a rugby perspective.
Coaching and just being around these animals that were high performers.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You had to figure it out.
You're no longer the fittest guy on the club team or the fastest guy in your position on your club group, because you're in with 30 other guys that are all trying to do the same thing as make the national team. Maybe in different positions, but they're all trying to do the same thing.
So things are starting to click.
It's moving slowly. So
are you working during all this? Like, so when you're playing, like when you're training,
I had some great jobs.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
You're not getting paid for any of this.
No, I put the school on pause, I call it. I took a couple of courses at UVic. I can't say I went to that school properly. Spanish and other fun things.
Outdoor pursuits.
Yeah, basically. And I was that guy, but I worked, and I was a laborer mostly. So it's really hard, actually. So our training started at 4. It accommodated students and workers, which was pretty cool in that under 23 program.
Yep.
But you work your bag off from 7 till 3:30. Yep. You show up to training, and then you got to go 2.5 hours with your kind of training and strength and conditioning. It was a lot.
Yep.
When you're 21, it doesn't feel like that much. You're like, I'm invincible, man. I can do this all day long.
And then go out too.
Yeah, well, we did do that. We're not going to talk about that here, are we? Oh, no. I hope not.
I'm not going to sue you. I'm not going to sue you.
I met my now wife in Victoria too. So it's really transformative kind of experience for me in life for sure. But go through, I probably have to hurry this up a little bit.
No, fuck, man. We're good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
okay,
we're real good.
I spent 2 years in that program. And really just kind of confidence, go home to Ontario in the summer times, starting to play more rep rugby for the Ontario squads, and kind of getting looks, as it were.
And you have all the work you're putting in, you're being intentional with it? Like, do you have the goal of internationals?
So I wrote it down. I knew what I wanted to be in my first year of that under 23 program. In hindsight, I wish I had set the bar higher and been better and more purposeful about it. That's only a learned experience, though. I didn't know what I didn't know then. Yep. I did an okay job, I think, at it. But if I had a regret, and I don't, I wish that I could have done it a little more. I wish I could have poured a little more emphasis into how to be deliberate about training, how to be deliberate about looking after your body. So I wasn't going out sticky wicket every Saturday night. Idiot. Just those little things, I think that really, and once you get to a elite high performance level in sport, or in anything for that matter, it really is the difference maker if you can be really purposeful about those pieces and kind of design them well.
Yep.
I wasn't that structured about it.
It was early back then, though, too, right? Like
it was too.
Today, the athletes are like almost robotic.
Oh yeah,
it's like
S&C was not really a thing back then. Even it was, but it was coming in. Nutrition was not a thing. It was, but it was coming in. Like all of those things were new. I just, you kind of wish that you could have accelerated things.
Yeah.
So
you're playing summer in Ontario.
Summer in Ontario, yeah. Go back and do you're only allowed 2 years in that program. The under 23 program. I do my second year, and it's leading into a World Cup year for the senior men's team. I've got my eyes on making Canada, but making the World Cup squad in 2003 is a stretch, like a big stretch. But our team on that under 23 squad that year was all world. It's hard to describe. It's not like it was the most talented group, but we were the most cohesive team I've ever been a part of. And that's across the Canadian squad, that's across professional squads. It really was. And that helped showcase the talents of all the guys on that squad. I could probably go through the roster. There's a number that really made it and had an impact in rugby in Canada in general. But that boosted me up because we were just we were kicking ass.
Everyone gets elevated when the team does good.
And then you get noticed, right?
Yep.
And then you get in the mix, and then you get a couple of little nods from the senior team, like a game, which is like the next tier down.
Okay.
It's a men's team, but it's like the next tier down, so you get an A game or things like that. And that's exactly what happened. And then in the spring of 2003, they had a camp in Victoria for the Canadian team, and they invited a bunch of the 23 guys to help come in. And they asked me to come in, and I'm playing fly half at this time, so you're effectively quarterback, and I would have been maybe 5 or 6 on the depth chart, right? And they take 3, I think, at that point. But they bring us in to help coordinate the training sessions and all the legends of the game in the rugby world, which nobody knows about, but the legends, Al Sharon, Rod Snow, all these guys are there. And you shit your pants. But that was the point for me anyways, where I said, you know what, I'm gonna throw it out there because I'm supposed to be the boss, and I do a couple of things really well. I organize a game well, and I tactically move people around well. That's the one thing that's been going well. I'm just gonna do it here. And in those training environments, I stood up and I said, you, Al Sharon, go here, and you go over there, and this is what I'm going to do next, and this is how we're gonna react, and this is what we should do next. And there was kind of like the beat a loser, and maybe, but some of it worked out, and it went okay. And this is how I remember the story. Others probably,
I'm sure.
This guy's a knob. And that went pretty well. And then I got picked in the summer for the first, what was called the Churchill Cup, and I got my first test match that summer with Canada. And then that started into like, well, if I'm getting a cap now, maybe they'll make a selection into the World Cup that is some of this group, and they take 30 people to a Rugby World Cup. It's the 3rd largest sporting event in the world. It's a massive thing in the global sphere of sporting. Yep. In Canada, it's probably less recognized as a big accomplishment. But for us, it was everything. And that summer, I just got a little taste of it and said, you know what, maybe if I dig into this even more, I might get a look at the World Cup, and that would be, wow, blow my mind. And worked hard, lucky enough, all those things, picked for each of the subsequent tours. And I remember they picked the World Cup team in Edmonton, and which is strange. They announced it to a group of players in the basement of this hotel, and the last name they pick is me.
No way.
Same thing as the Ontario thing. If I go back, last name they pick, I was the last guy on the sheet.
Crazy.
Last guy on the sheet.
You were there in Edmonton?
Yeah, in the hotel of oh God, Coast Hotel. The last guy, the name that they called, and the 30th member of the World Cup squad, R. Smith. Fucking.
No way. So what are you? Are you?
Yeah. So now you're in. You're going to a World Cup. And that for rugby guys, for the most part, is like, holy shit, I might have made it now. And our pool at that World Cup is the All Blacks. So New Zealand, best team in the world. Wales, I just told you about them. They're pretty good. Tonga and Italy. So a good pool, but a tough pool. And in Australia. So one of the meccas of rugby as well. Australia's a huge rugby sporting culture. Go off to that World Cup as kind of the kickoff. And now I'm thinking to myself, wait, I could probably have a career in rugby too. I think I could play this sport professionally abroad, because there's leagues that you can go and play across Europe and all these other places. Just so happens my dad's born in England. He moved to Canada when he was young, but I can get a British passport. So if you can get a British passport, you're not considered a foreign player in Europe.
And there's a cap on foreign.
2 in every team.
No, that's it.
That's right. They save those ones for Kiwis and Aussies and South Africans and like big star players. And when you're a mucker Canadian, they're not going to pick you for one of your foreign spots, right? So it's really hard for Canadians to make it in professional rugby. So I get my passport during the 2003 World Cup. I play 3 of the games, and again, I like
giant facilities, right?
60,000 people stadiums.
Like, that feeling.
That's large. Yeah.
And was that the first time you played at that scale?
Yeah, Telstra Dome in Australia. We played Wales. They didn't fill it, so it doesn't feel like, what are the numbers? I think that you can put 60 something in there. Yeah. They probably had 45,000 or something in there. But that's a lot of people, right?
Tons.
You shit your pants.
Yes.
That's what happens when you go out on the field.
You're a high performing athlete, confident. You get thrown in a situation like that. That just can you be prepared for that?
No. So cool thing. So we're playing the All Blacks in there, right? So have you ever seen the haka or heard of the haka? You know what this is?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been fortunate enough to stand in front of the haka on 3 occasions from the Kiwis and another couple occasions with the New Zealand Maori, the indigenous team. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, wow, are you really scared? Are you intimidated, like your question earlier? Mm-hmm. And those things I think are kind of there, but it's more motivating, it's more inspiring, and it's more energy giving than anything else. So when you stand there and you've got your arms around your best mates in rugby and you're 20 meters away from that sound and that energy, it's hard to describe in person. No, it just like it takes your body and just moves you out to a different place. Your head explodes. You're like, they stop and you're like, let's go. So you're not scared. You're just inspired because it's a challenge, right? Yep. The haka is a challenge from them. We're gonna do battle with you, and we want you to do battle with us as well. It's really quite cool.
Would you, like I'm a sports person, watched enough rugby to understand exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. When you were growing up, were you watching this on TV? Did you ever catch yourself, like, now that you're standing there, like,
It didn't, like, so this is life by accident again. First time I ever watched a rugby game was grade 9. They put the VHS tape in the video to try and show us what the game looked like. And it's like these grainy Five Nations videos. So I didn't appreciate the gravity of it as much. When I got to my last Rugby World Cup, my third in 2011, that's when it was starting to kind of, I had a true appreciation for it. I should tell you that's really cool. Let's just fast forward a little bit, but so I'll come back, I guess. But at that World Cup, we played. So my last game.
It's World Cup every
4 years.
Okay.
Every 4 years. So I played in 3, 7, and 11.
Okay.
And my last World Cup, I knew it was my last, and I was planning on retiring after our last pool game. And our last pool game was against the All Blacks. So it just was like this kind of everything lined up really well. And we're playing the All Blacks in New Zealand at a Rugby World Cup, and we're playing in Wellington at the Cake Tin, which is one of the iconic New Zealand stadiums. So line up for the haka, and I'm appreciating the gravity of this situation. And this one is really strong. They've got a great team. They go on to win the World Cup that year too. And at Wellington, they put the microphones on the field in front of the haka as well. So not only can you hear and feel the players right in front of you with their eyes bulging and their tongues out and everything, but the sound comes back at you over the stadium too.
Crazy.
So you're standing on the thing, and then all of a sudden you hear these waves of noise because the microphone reverberates, and then the crowd starts going. Rah. And when they first start, it's like the whole place goes nuts. It's really it's the most powerful thing in the world.
And like body light up, like is it
unbelievably so? It really is otherworld. Like your body feels like it's like you get twice the size, or that's maybe the sensation, right? You're like, I can run through a brick wall right now, and I know that's a cliche, but it really does make you feel that way. So
as a fan of sport, and I see these things just these moments in time, right? When Canada's playing New Zealand, I'll usually try and find it and turn it on just to experience that sitting at home, not getting hurt, but I can't imagine that feeling face to face.
I get a lot of people ask now, rugby people and non-rugby people, hey, do you miss playing rugby? I don't miss playing the game at all. The game's really hard. It hurts too. But like being in the action, less so. Those moments though, I could describe them to you like I was there now. The moments on the bus, the moments in the change room, in the shed, after the match, those are the ones that you really miss. You actually miss being on tour with the guys. It's like summer camp for grown adults. You're on the road all day long, and it's awesome. Like those are the things that you miss after you finish having a fulsome career in sport, I would say. So that's probably the most telling thing there.
That so in between, you're playing pro then?
So
you're making a living.
So it's kind of Canada's really interesting. So I finished that 03 World Cup. I think I'm getting a pro job right away. Because I'm like, I'm the man, I'm lighting it up, I got a passport, have to get a job. I get an agent's like, you're going to get a job. 2 years goes by, no job. So 2 years, no job. So I'm playing, at the time though, playing Rugby Sevens for Canada and playing for the 15s team. So double duty, which is, not a lot of guys do both. I was doing both at the time and I loved it. Sevens is rad. You get to travel the world to these really cool exotic locations. Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, South Africa, like everywhere in the world. And you spend a week in a location, rock star tournament, you move on to the next one. Just so much fun.
Getting paid for?
No.
This is
carded athlete. So you make $1,200 a month. Thank you, Government of Canada.
Isn't that ridiculous?
God. So you get your carded athlete.
Yeah.
So for 2 years, I'm starving
And
not paying bills.
You're okay with it, or was it like
I was in it, I had this inner belief that I would I would get a contract.
So you were just doing
But
the work.
I'll tell you, that had some cracks in it. I'll show you mine. So like 2 years, no job. But I'm playing for Canada sevens and playing for the 15s team and playing pretty like decent.
Yep.
In the mix all the time, getting picked for everything. Instead of just a bench player, now getting starting roles, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. So you're hitting
not in the
stride.
sevens. I'm actually not that fast. So sevens wasn't really my sport. So I'm bench guy at sevens, but I'm playing 15s and getting picked. And think I should be getting a job, and I'm not. It's really frustrating. 2005, summer 2005, we had a tour. We played in Calgary. It was the last summer tour of the year. And we played Argentina in Calgary, 2005. We beat them here.
I remember
Fantastic result. They were quite good at the time. We're just emerging. So we beat Argentina in Calgary. And at the time, I'd been living with my now wife for a year and a half. And I think I saw her for like 4 weeks.
And where were you living?
We had a place in Mission.
Oh, you see, you were in Calgary now.
We rented an apartment together, but I was never there. I just paid for rent. I was gone. I must have been on the road 200 days. It was insane.
Crazy.
So we're trying to have a relationship. I'm trying to play rugby, not making any money, going broke in the
How old are you?
process. 2005. That makes me 26. So,
So
I'm moving up into like adulthood here.
Yeah, so this is a there's a bunch of peers doing different things.
Oh, yeah.
Things whether they're
Pursuing
graduated
real
or
jobs
like,
and they have degrees and stuff.
Real, yeah. Okay.
And I don't. I have half
So
of one.
you're dealing with that.
But this is part of me as well. I'm kind of oblivious to some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm oblivious, ignorant, ambivalent, however you want to call it. I don't care. I was very clear on where I wanted to go. I did want to get a professional job. I said that was my goal. I was going to do it. And but then, so that summer tour after almost 2 years, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a job. Nothing. I'd actually turned down one job that was a shitty contract offer with 4 other players. I'm glad I did too. Like, okay, summer tour's done. I don't have another job. I'm coming back to Calgary. I'll get a job. This is what I said to her and everybody else. And at the end of the game, we went on a little trip for 4 days, me and a bunch of buddies from the team, into the interior and just got after it for a couple of days. And I'm driving back. And I'm like, I got to get a job now. This sucks. And the phone rings. No shit. It's the agent from 03, the guy that hasn't done anything. He's like, hey, can you get on a plane to New Zealand in 3 days? Yeah, sure. Like say yes to life kind of thing. Same as moving to the West Coast, all this, same as like investing in that pursuit. There's a guy that's got done his knee in and we need a replacement. Everybody else is on contract already. Can you come play? And it was called the MPC, which is a step below Super Rugby at that time, which is arguably Super Rugby is the highest quality rugby that was in the world then.
Yep.
NBC was the feeder for that. So it was a really high quality league and no Canadians had played there. He said, hey, can you get on a plane in 3 days and go to New Zealand?
Fuck yeah.
So I get home and I've just told my girlfriend I'm coming home, I'm going to get a job. So this is funnier because it happens again. I don't want to ruin the rest of it. Yeah, I'm just really bad at this. And she's fantastic, my God. So I'm not staying in Calgary. I'm going to New Zealand. I go over there, sign my first contract. This is huge. So I got a job playing rugby now, and it's a good wedge, and I'm happy because I'm doing the thing that I love. Mm-hmm. And I get a few games, so I'm not a starting player, but I get a couple starts and then bench stuff. But it just opens my eyes to what rugby is and what the quality of rugby is. It's a short-term contract, 4 months maybe, something like that. And then it leads into a fall tour for the Canadian team. So 4 weeks on the road for Canada in Europe. So you go full contract. And she popped over one time, my girl, my wife now, God, I love her. So she pops over one time to visit me in New Zealand. She's like, hey, what are you doing with your life after this? You know, I got a job and stuff. So are you planning on doing any of that? I want to be a pro athlete, all this. It's great. This is talking about me a lot. It's weird.
It's awesome.
So nearing the end of that, I'm calling the agent like, hey, what's next? What's next? I can't get another job in New Zealand. That guy's come back. There's no way I'm getting that job back. They don't bring in a lot of foreigners. I had a great experience. Did really well with that team. Enjoyed that, but it wasn't going to happen there. Can you get me a job in Europe? oh, nothing up, bad timing. It's not going to work. Fall tour for Canada. I call my girlfriend and say, hey, I'm going to finish the tour. I'm coming home to Calgary. I'm going to get a job. So I'm going to get a real job now. I can start my life.
What was your real job idea, by the way? Did you have one?
You won't believe this. I wanted to be a golf pro, like a teaching golf pro.
Wait.
Yeah, this is where I'd evolved to. I shit you not. I still want to do this job, by the way. Yeah. So I want to teach people how to golf. I think that's amazing. I love the game. I told you, it's my passion at the start. It really is. And I was going to be a golf pro. I was going to go work at a golf course and be an instructor because I love coaching too. It's really a mad passion of mine. And she's like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a bad idea too. So you got a bunch of bad ideas, dude.
Guess I'm going to stick with you.
Loser. Go to the Canada tour, 4 weeks on the road. It's like week 1, week 2, week 3. And I'm like, I got to go back to Calgary. I got to get a job now. And I'm actually looking forward to it, but I wish it had gone into more. We play France in the last game of that tour in France in Nantes. Get a call after the game from a French agent who says, hey, I saw you play okay. Would you be willing to come to this French club for a 2-week trial? Say yes to life. Okay, sure. So now I say yes to that, but then I got to get on the horn. Hey, Chantel, you know how I said I was coming home to get a job a second time? So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to France, but it's only 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks. You don't have to worry. I'm going to be home after 2 weeks. It's trial. I doubt anything's going to happen here. Then I'll come home. So I go and I play 2 weeks for this club, Montauban, in the south of France, near Toulouse, about 45 minutes to the west of Toulouse. Beautiful little town. Arrive there, like 2 foreigners in the team. Nobody speaks English. Full French squad. They're in the 2nd division of the French league. It's good quality rugby, but it's rough. It's tough rugby and really intense. Team, it turns out, is really quite good. They're at the top of the table. So they're first place in the 2nd division in France. I go there. They need a guy because somebody's nuked his knee. I walk into the team, play 2 games, score 2 tries, light it up, and the coaching staff is like, hey, here's a contract, 2 years plus 1.
No way.
Yeah, shit, you're not. So
how's that phone call?
So you know how I said I was coming back? And they said, you got to stay. Let's just keep going. Let's roll. So I say, I got to go home and drop off my stuff and get my life and then come back. Hey, so you know how I said I was going to come back? I'm not coming back. I'm going to stay. And we're going to go on this France adventure. And it's going to be awesome. You should quit your job. And to her credit, she quit her job. Came over, lived with me, and that started the adventure of the professional career. So played 3 years in France at the same time as I was playing for Canada, and just rolled that whole together. So you kind of have this like amateur, professional, and then finished with amateur career as well too. Came back from France the year that we got married. We had done a year and a half together. We did a year and a half apart, and then we got married in 2008. I should know this. 2008. I know the day.
Fuck, it's
written on my ring, so I don't forget. So we get married. I come back, and then I continued playing as an amateur while I was starting my business career. So now we kind of get through this phase. And
crazy.
Yeah, it's the last 3 years of my rugby adventure were working downtown as well. So talk about getting into business. Calgary. Yeah, in Calgary. So
doing what?
That's the best question. Came back, still wanted to be a golf pro. So idiot.
Are you a good golfer?
I can play okay.
Sub 10 handicap?
I'm a 1 or 2.
Oh, so you're on
right
scratch.
Now. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
so
close there now.
You're talented.
I can play a little, but I love the game. I love practicing in that game. Yeah, I don't play a lot now.
What is it? Just how it's a challenge with you? Like it's just this like.
So I'll tell you what I believe. This is kind of hokey or whatever. You can never perfect the game of golf. Nobody's ever done it. It's imperfectible, and you can continue to try and beat it, but you never can. So you just always have to work at it. Like that's the beauty of that game, and it's only just you. You have no one else to compete against except landscape. I know that people say you're in tournaments and you're competing against people, but you're not actually. It's just you and the stupid little white ball that sits there.
It sometimes goes left, sometimes
goes
right.
Wherever you want, right? And it seems it's so innocuous. It should be so easy, but it's not. The best, you see the best professional athletes in the world oftentimes pursue golf afterwards because they crave that, how do I get better all the time? And I'm not the best athlete in the world, but I did crave that, and that's kind of where golf fits. So I came back in 2008, and I said, you know what? I'm going to be a golf pro. I go talk to my golf pro people that I know in Calgary. Whatever you do, don't become a golf pro. 80 hours a week in the summertime, 6 hours, 6 months a year. Teach old people how to not get better at golf. You're going to hate your life. And Ryan, you love golf. Don't do it. depressed, choose not to do golf. And then my father-in-law at the time, and this is kind of, this went really well. He's like, you connect well with people. You should go downtown and sell in the oil patch.
Classic.
Like, that is classic. It's
Classic
the Calgary
athlete.
story, right?
Yep.
Athlete
Yeah,
to, so there's hockey players, there's football players, there's a couple of idiot rugby players. They're all over. They're littered downtown Calgary. Get into BD. And I did that. I went downtown. I sat in front of a guy who I eventually became business partners with in second go around, which is, he gave me his first job in my first job in Calgary. He said, hey, what do you think you'd be good at? I said, well, I think I connect well with people. And, I can kind of have tea with the queen, or I can, go roll sod with guys and work on the rigs if you want.
Yep.
I can do kind of everything in between, but I can connect well, and I think I understand people. He said, all right. I leave, come back 3 days later. He's like, here's a job after. You're going to sell wireline in downtown Calgary. What is wireline? So it's hit the old Google machine, try and figure this out. I don't know how to sell or anything, so I get this job selling wireline. So now we transition into kind of the business career. Still playing rugby at that point, so I finished off the last couple of years playing for Canada.
Yep.
Last Rugby World Cup in 2011, kind of blend that with a BD career in the energy sector.
An interesting mix, right? Like the highest of the high in Canada.
Yeah.
Like an insane athlete, and then not getting paid. Supposed to be training and then you got this job that you're just like.
So it's interesting. This is how naive is to the world of business. I'm like, so I'll take this job, but I need 2 months off a year to play for Canada still. Like, are you an idiot? You can't say that. Oh,
and 2 weeks? No, I said 2 months.
No, 2 months. And everybody who was around me, and I think it worked because I hustled pretty hard. I would always get in and just like do a lot in a shorter amount of time.
Yep.
And then combine that with the rugby, and then that holds a little bit of, hey, he's still an athlete,
for sure.
and that opens doors sometimes.
Yep.
I get that.
Yep.
So it worked out in that sense that I could wind down my Canadian career a little bit with starting my professional career at the same time.
Did you know it was the perfect time? Like, were you ready to wind it down, or is your body yelling at you, or is it just like...
Getting towards the last year of Canada rugby, I did know for sure. I knew that would be my last year. It just, everything was pairing well. Body was okay.
Yeah. Was it interest or passion, or were you just realizing you were just putting it to bed?
I was coming on 31 or 32 when I finished playing, and I was enjoying being in business. And I thought that was something that I should probably kick off by that point. And you can see the writing on the wall too. 31, 32 for a back in Canadian rugby is old.
Yep.
I had been dropped actually for the first time in my Canadian career about a year and a half before the World Cup. And I was like, oh shit, man, I got to change something I do or else I'm not going to make this World Cup. And that was kind of the last kick in the ass that got me through to that World Cup. Finished that unbelievable experience. Second best team I've ever played on. That group of guys and that experience and just being able to also have a professional career in Calgary that's 2 or 3 years old, but then going to World Cup and having cachet when you come back, it just lends itself really well to starting to build your own personal brand or whatever that is. It worked out well for timing in that sense.
That, as you've kind of dipped your feet in the business world, and you understand that, like you said, that having the sport behind you, being a pro athlete, has some cachet.
Totally does.
It allows you to get into conversations a little quicker because there's something to talk about.
Yeah.
People are actually generally interested, and then you can kind of do your thing. The idea of starting your own thing, how does that I'm really curious. And here's what's interesting to me is, I talked on the phone, and just listening to you talk of what drives you and how you make your moves, I found fascinating. So that's this is no slap to you. That's not an education.
No.
That's not it's kind of in you, and it's either putting a bunch of pieces, connecting a bunch of dots that you've kind of experienced over the years to give you this outlook, because how you operate is wildly different than most business owners. When did this start to happen?
That's let me stick back. I will answer that question. I finished my degree, which is awesome. Eventually, it took me 9 years to get.
Sounds like hell.
It is hell. It was hell. I finished it while I was in France. It's one of the prouder moments of my life, though. Because
so you got the education.
Finished it. I have it. It's there. It's not worth anything.
Okay, good.
And then I should have more letters after my name instead of B and A.
You can always have CAN.
Yeah. That's it. So how do you get to that point where you can make those decisions? It's experiential. It absolutely is. But you have to be able to lean on something and say, yeah, I made a couple and it worked out. And if you reflect on me personally and the rugby decisions that I made or the life decisions I made to drop school or go into rugby or any of the stuff, the story that I just told, it gives you a little bit of confidence because you're like, you know what? Downside risk is what? And for any business owner, when you make those types of decisions, typically you've got that mindset, okay, what's the downside risk? What's the worst that could happen here? But you become faster at them the more that you understand all the pieces. And that's something that we've done collectively in our business now really well, is be able to rationalize, understand, and then risk mitigate everything that comes at you. Probably something that I do really fast, sometimes maybe too fast, too flippant. But success kind of breeds success, so you feel good about it each time that you do it. That's kind of it. Move on to the business side now. Worked as a BD professional for 3 years for other people, and then got an opportunity to be employee one at a new business in 2012, I think it was.
Somebody, you knew somebody?
The guy that gave me my first job.
No way.
He had started another business, and he's like, hey, I need a BD guy, and I want you. I said, yes, if I want to buy into the business eventually. I want to be able to earn my way into this business, and I want to be a business owner. My parents were business owners, small business. It was always something that was there. And so you don't realize that until later in life, but it was there. I said, I want to be in business. Can you let me earn in? He said, yeah, absolutely. To his credit, there was a bunch of partners in there. He said, we'll eventually work on you buying out some of the passive partners. That's exactly what happened.
That's a good opportunity.
It was. So that was, let's call it the University of Business. The first go around. Didn't make a penny. Had an awesome experience, learned a shit ton, and kind of met my two business partners now over the course of that journey.
Cool.
Not just in business, in personal, in life as well.
Are you quick to, when people come into your life, are you quick to understand, like, I don't want to say their value, but the alignment? Are you quick to understand that these people are somebody you can jam with for a lot of years?
Yeah, I won't say this flippantly. I don't have a lot of super skills. Like, I'm not a highly analytical person, but I can understand people decently well. Understand their motivation, if it meshes with mine and my motivation and how I interact. So it may seem like snap judgments, but I think that's probably something that I do pretty well.
So you come across these two.
These two Muppets. God, I wish I had it done differently. So Bryce and Mark and I are the three founders in the business now, 360. We collide downtown Calgary through the Bow Valley Cup playing squash, of all things. Cool. Bryce and I do anyways, and Mark and I know each other from our wives and kind of lives outside of it. He's downtown as well. So we all collide downtown and we start thinking about a business. And how we get into a business, and Mark and Bryce and I are all entrepreneurial in our own unique ways, and we all have different skill sets, which are actually quite different. It's like, so now I get to make fun of guys. It's great. Totally. Not really. I won't. But we get called this often. It's kind of like mom, dad, crazy uncle. That's a good way of describing our partnership. Bryce has this huge brain, and he's really thoughtful about the space that we're in. He's a technical expert in the space that we're in. Mark is a highly analytical person and a really focused, linear thought process person. And my brain is maybe more around the people and kind of growth and strategic elements. And all of us have different elements of those things too. But if you wanted to characterize us, that's where it fit. And Bryce was working in the space at the time. Our space is oil and gas site closure. So we close oil and gas sites, inactive sites, orphan sites. It's quite a big problem or issue that exists and existed at that time peripherally. 2012, 13, 14 is the time frame we're talking right now. Bryce was working for an oil company that had a big issue with inactive sites. We're trying to fix this, they said, so let's throw all this money at it and consolidate all these parts of the operation, and let's try and work our way out of this problem. Close our way out of this problem, close all these sites, abandon them, and reclaim them. And Bryce, in the middle of that program, stood back and said, well, there's something here. Like the companies like this company, there's lots of them that have these problems, and it's a bigger mounting problem. We should maybe think about trying to do something. and he's an environmental consultant, so he couldn't organize a piss up in a brewery. And so he lines with Mark and I, and we kind of start building the idea or the concept for what 360 is today.
Cool.
We kicked.
Sorry, the idea of you've had this idea of being an entrepreneur, having your own business. Was the idea of like partnering with people ever on the board, like to have a team around you, or was that a new idea for you to digest?
No, that's a really good question, and I have actually thought about this randomly, not with you. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to partnership. Most people would say the best number of partners is 0, and you can just control everything. I don't believe that. I think that leadership in organizations go forward in the new world today requires more than one mindset. And that probably comes, I think, for me anyways, from having been on a rugby team.
Yep.
And that sounds corny or cheesy or whatever, but rugby teams are the most comprehensive, unique, wide-ranging teams that exist in sport. You need 15 people singing from the same song sheet at every single time. And everybody has a different role to play. And there's not one star in a rugby team. It doesn't exist. There are a couple of good players usually, but that's not how that sporting entity is organized. So my mindset has always been to leverage off of other like-type people, and that's what we've done with our partnership, but then also now with the leadership and also now with the entity and how we organize our people together as well. We really focus on trying to organize people in a way that is flatter rather than hierarchical.
Isn't it... It's so cliche though. Back to the start of this conversation about how sport, teach you all these things, but it's kind of undeniable, right? Like it's
my experience is my experience, and I had sport to lean on. Absolutely, but I can't speak highly enough about those types of experiences and how they shape you as a person. And you don't have to be at the elite level. You just have to be involved in an activity. I don't care if it's a symphony, but something that organizes people together. If you understand that way of being together, I think it lends itself really well to business.
So this business adventure now, it's been a long time, 11 years.
Well, so like there was a long buildup. We incorporated on December 15th, 2015.
Cool.
After getting drunk at Rodney's Oyster Bar.
I was going to ask you where you were.
So about a month and a half before that, we got drunk at Rodney's Oyster Bar and stacked hands and said, we're going to do this.
Cool.
We had built up towards it for a long time. So Rodney's Oyster Bar is the spiritual home of 360 because that's where we kicked off actually getting into business together. And December 15th, we incorporate. We slow roll the business for about a year. Like we're doing it moonlighting off the side of our desk, all of this. Part-time. Mark came over first in 2017. I came over second after selling that other business I was telling you about. We built it up and sold it. I worked for the company that bought us for a short period of time and then said, I'm going over to that other business. It wasn't a business at that time. It was just 5 consultants, part-time, just getting off the ground. And so Mark and I came over full time, and then Bryce came over at the end of that year. I can tell the story of the business now. From 15
this
to
is your show, man.
23. It's your show.
You haven't figured this out yet?
That's a lot of talking. I'm dry. So from kind of 15 to March of 2020, we build up this tidy little business. Good brand, good people. We're solving a unique problem in the energy sector.
And are you coming at it from this same approach that the way you operate right now? Were you talking the same way, and did you have the same kind of path? The way you talk and the way you look is very different, right? The way you look at it all, like it's I'm going to summarize it. It's like purpose driven around story, people. Like it's a very different approach. Was that the same thing when you started?
No, not in the least bit. We have this phrase called by accident on purpose. We were very much by accident on purpose at the beginning. We did it. We had a lot of good qualities, and we did them because we felt they were right. But it wasn't road mapped. It wasn't purposefully designed. We didn't have the blueprint, as it were. In the last 3 years, that's changed drastically. We've really leaned into that side.
Based on why the change? Because you were just at a spot where you could focus on that. Like you were just. Like
Awareness,
it's a big change,
understanding,
right?
It is a big change, absolutely. Again, back to that success breeds success. We had little wins and those little confidence builders, but then you hit them, like each stage in a business, you kind of go fast, plateau, plateau. And we've been through all of those. Each time we plateau, because we've got a high-performing mindset inside of our group, we say, no, we're not good with plateau. How do we move that next one? And we realized a couple years back that we really needed to design something that was that would have that stability. We call it the 100-year business model now. So we're trying to design a business that lasts for 100 years.
Cool.
And when you think about that, it becomes daunting. But if you actually flip that mindset a little bit, you're like, oh wait, that's not that hard. I can start to design these little pieces that are intentional.
Yep.
Our culture is one of the things that we lean into, and the culture is an overused word, but we did it by accident on purpose at the beginning, but now we've roadmapped it, and we've really designed it, and we tweak it, and we iterate it, and those things, they're so impactful.
Is that like business maturity? What, like, it's,
yeah,
I'm on you on this because I find it like really fascinating, and just because of where I am with my business, and just like when I get to talk to business people like you, I like, these are the important things that I take away. So it's an interesting.
Let me link it back to sport for you, because I missed a part of the story. Bryce and Mark are both big into sport as well. Different degrees.
Like you talented?
Mark, he was a hockey player.
Okay.
Played in the Dub for 5 years.
Oh, cool.
Played at university for another 4 years. Got a look, but chose a different path.
Okay.
Chose work. So he played.
High end.
So that helps, I think. And this is where it ties together. When you run into a problem in sport, what do? You either pack it in and fold up, or you say, okay, I'm going to change the way that I train.
Yep.
I'm going to change the way that I work out,
Yep.
things that I eat, how I sleep.
Yep.
You just look for solutions.
Yep.
So it's a solution-orientated mindset, and that's what we've done inside of our business, is try and every time we hit a roadblock, say, okay, sure, this is hard, but all things are hard in life. If you, and I know that's simplifying that, but if you can take that mindset and say, you know what, we're just going to constantly improve. And maybe for me, in my own personal kind of life journey, I don't care if it's a lemonade stand or a professional athletic endeavor or an environmental and engineering consulting business. It just has to continue to grow. And grow doesn't mean get bigger. Grow just means get better. It could be both.
Yep.
But that's how we collectively, our leadership team, our partnership group, and the business as a whole looks at it and says, okay, what are the little things we can iterate and keep going? And I know we're there now where that's inherent inside of the group.
Yep.
Looking at different problems and saying, okay, the first thing, instead of, the phrase, the problem is, I can't stand it. It rattles me to no end. And when anybody says it,
Do you call them on it? Or are we just like,
sometimes it depends how
who it is,
how well we get along. If I hear from you, we're in trouble. But that mindset is, you could link it to that desire to always improve, I think. And we've come to that maturity point in business. To answer your question, come back around it. Yeah, we've definitely come to that point. It's no longer by accident on purpose. We want to do everything purposefully.
Being able to say that out loud and kind of like have the blueprint around it to give you like direction of where this thing's going, like a 100-year plan, sure.
Yeah.
But it gives you some some parameters to play within to actually get there.
100%. And now you could, like, inside of a 100-year model, you can design year 1, year 3, year 5, and you can be really diligent about achieving those. Once you have the roadmap, you can then set the targets, then you can set the actions that follow, and then you can be able to track your progress and all of those things that are important inside of, everybody's set all these goals. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
But you also have to have the vision of where you're going.
Yep.
And you have to have your purpose, why you're going there. Like creating all those elements of a business are so challenging, but so rewarding. And it's the most fun thing that we're doing today. We, the partnership group, the leadership group, all of that.
Do you, are you comfortable in this spot right now? Are you comfortable? It's like it's not uncharted territories, but it's like.
Yeah. For most days, that's me personally. Or the business.
Yeah, no, you. Like you as in like, you're leading an operation now.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
You slap yourself in the face sometimes. So our business now is 150 people where, it was 3 guys with an idea at Rodney's.
3 guys at Rodney's off the side of their desks for X amount of years.
Yeah, totally. Am I comfortable? Yeah, I'm really comfortable in our own skin.
Have you seen this? Could you have pictured this playing out.
No, not in a million years. Same with the rugby, though.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And you know, that's where I joke about the life by accident. Each step along the way, you're like, okay, I can do this. Okay, I can do this. There are moments in every person's career, no doubt, where they have, if you call it imposter syndrome or doubts or whatever you want to call it, you think about that for sure. And I do, absolutely. I'd like be lying if I said I wouldn't. There are some days also where I'd rather swing a hammer. Yeah. I'd rather watch something get built because it's very hard to see the tangible results of the work that I do personally, or that we do as a partnership or a leadership group. It's very hard to see those every single day. Like, you're not checking things off a list very often, which sucks. That's brutal. But inside of that construct of a 100-year business model, you can wrap your head around and say, oh, we are trending there. Here's the big milestones. Oh, fuck, we achieved that one. Really comfortable in that space right now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
This has been spectacular.
It's fun. That was a lot. Holy bananas.
I know, but like...
I want to flip the stage. I want to hear more about it.
You and I will do that. Maybe not Roddy's. We'll find somewhere else.
There better be beer.
Yes, no problem. Yeah, man, it's been really cool. Jackson said, he's like, if you can get Ryan to come on, it's going to be unbelievable. He's like, it's going to be my favorite one. He hasn't even heard it. So I knew this was going to be good because Jackson is a very different human. So
unbelievable. I have a lot of respect for him for the work that I'll pause you for 1 second, for the work that he's doing at his age. And age is not a factor.
No, but
if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Sure.
But the things that he's doing in the community and with his business, I have a lot of respect and time for that guy.
Yep. I end the show with one question.
Yes.
When I say Calgary, where's your head go?
Shit, I'd thought about this too. And I don't want to be the cliche that says opportunity. But that is absolutely true. When I think about it, so I flipped it and said, for me personally, Calgary is the place that my life has evolved. It really is. So it's the evolution of me, my family, my partner, my kids, my business, all those things. It's not to discount anything else, but it's the starting point.
Could all these opportunities have played out in a different city?
I honestly believe they could not.
Yeah.
And I don't need to hesitate about that.
Yeah.
I've lived in lots of places, so maybe that gives me the ability to say that. And I've covered Canada pretty well, and I've been to all the places almost in Canada that you could go. This city is the right size to be able to pursue almost anything that you want. In a city like Toronto's a great place. I'm a big Leafs fan. Go Leafs, go. I know, that's brutal. But it's too big. You get lost. You could be just one in 10 million or whatever it is. In Calgary, you have the ability to be unique, I think, or maybe that sounds corny, but you feel unique, and it's the perfect size, and you can see all these little opportunities and pursue them should you desire, and it has this runtime of entrepreneurialism that goes back so far to people that founded this place, and just you believe that you can do it. It's really weird to say.
Yeah, I know, but there's something.
I hope I didn't go cliche with opportunity. That's not it.
No,
it's the starting point.
No, it's it. Like, it's not. It's just the truth.
This is my home. I love this place.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, me too, man. Thank you.